late, and I have to speak very quickly, and I don't speak German. So you're going to have to laugh at all my jokes as if you understand them. Because otherwise I'll feel sort of badly and I won't go to the party after this. And I was really looking forward to going to the party. I'm going to tell you a story. A story of a story. This is a story that I have covered for almost 30 years, which tells you I started being a writer when I was 2. That was a joke. Started 3 decades ago at a place called UC Berkeley, where I went undergraduate. I was fascinated by 2 things. Computers, particularly the Macintosh, which came out when I was a sophomore, 2nd year of college, and anthropology, particularly anthropology written by very good writers like Clifford Geertz. I left college. The first job that I took, I turned down Morgan Stanley, where I could have been a technology analyst covering technology for Morgan Stanley. The person who does that now makes $20 million a year. I was an unpaid intern at this magazine. That's also a joke, but it's true. 1987, I started chasing the story of Apple Computer. I covered the Macintosh. I wrote stories. This is a story I wrote. I'm going to go back here and I'm going to read it for you. See, that's my name. And it says, sporting HyperCard and new Omni database integration. That's the first line. Sporting HyperCard and Omni database integration. Isn't that thrilling? Because I did not know how to tell the story without using words my mother did not understand, I went back to Berkeley, where I got a master's degree in writing good journalism. During my time at Berkeley, I got excited about an idea for a magazine I wanted to start. I called it the Rolling Stone of the Digital Age. I brought this idea to the dean of the school and I said I want to do my master's thesis by making this magazine. And he said, "You're crazy." So I decided to go to New York and become a freelance writer, writing stories about the digital revolution, but no one wanted them. So I came back to San Francisco and I met up with 4 other crazy people and we started what I consider to be a band. I was sort of the drummer, I would say, because I'm still a drummer now. And that band made this, Wired magazine. Now, when Wired came out, there was a group of about 100,000 to 200,000 people who were absolutely rabid about it, who felt like all of a sudden a club had been formed and they were members simply by reading the magazine. It was so cool, so cool. But after about 5 years, I noticed the story was moving. This story was about jumping in the middle of the street and saying, "Hey everybody, the digital revolution is coming, you better pay attention." And after 5 years, I figured everyone had heard that, and now people were actually making things in that. Especially they were making new companies and new businesses. So I left. But before I tell you that story, let me tell you the first story about advertising. Right before I left, actually 2 or 3 years before I left, we started Hotwired. Do any of you remember Hotwired? Thank you, all of you older people in the audience. Hotwired was one of the first commercial online web-based publications. It had everything. We boiled the ocean. We did sports and we did travel and we did entertainment and lifestyle and business and you name it, we did it. We hired 40 editors. We had an editorial meeting. I am telling you this story now. This is the story of the birth of this. That is the first ever online banner on the internet. That is AT&T's banner. It says, "Have you ever clicked right here? You will." And 75% of the people who came to our site did. 75%. How did that start? We were in an editorial meeting, the 4 of us, editors of the magazine, and we said, how are we going to pay all the people we just hired to write for this online publication? And I kind of sheepishly raised my hand and I said, I have this online service called Prodigy, which is a very old online service. And down at the bottom, there's this very irritating kind of banner-like thing that you can't make go away. And I hate it. But it's advertising, so maybe that's how we do it. And my editor at the time and the CEO of the company, Louis Rossetto, who should get all the credit for this, said, that's it. We'll take that irritating thing, we'll put it up at the top so people can scroll it out of the way and ignore it. I swear to God, that's how the banner was born. And we have been ignoring them ever since. The click-through rate for the online banner has gone down by 4 orders of magnitude since we put that banner on Hotwired in 1994. 4 orders, from 75% to 0.75% to 0.075% to 0.0075%. We're chasing the wrong metric, but I get ahead of myself. I left Wired when I saw the story going into business, and in particular, all these amazing companies that were starting in the late 1990s, the dot-com boom. How many of you were working in the dot-com boom? Those of you who have your hands up have scars on your back. I certainly do. The Industry Standard was an amazing ride. It was the most successful publication in the history of publishing and still is. 7,500 ad pages in 1 year. It got a little silly. This is the neighborhood where I had my offices in Jackson Square in downtown San Francisco. I had 9 buildings. I put a billboard up on the side of a building so people could tell where the offices were in the neighborhood. That's just crazy. A billboard. Here is a chart of the NASDAQ stock market. That peak is when I put the billboard on the side of the building. That is when I went out of business. Ouch. We were doing $200 million US a year in revenue, 21 million in profit, with $80 million of fixed costs I could not get rid of, when 75% of my revenue exited the doors in 1 quarter. Ugh. Moving along, I went back to Berkeley, where I became a professor teaching people how not to screw up the way I had just screwed up. While I was there, I noticed something really important was happening. A new movement in the ashes of the dot-com crash. My partner and I, Tim O'Reilly, called this Web 2.0. These companies were built on the platform of the internet. They were built on sharing and collaboration and open APIs and SDKs and other 3-letter acronyms. One of them had 4, AJAX. But in any case, this spawned a whole new set of amazing companies. And Web 2 was a way for us to put them all on stage, just like here, and talk to all the leaders. There's Eric Schmidt and Dick Costolo and Mark Zuckerberg and Steve Ballmer and all sorts of other folks we put up there and created a media platform around. But I was noticing something else was happening. A new form of media was starting to emerge. This was 2004, 2005. And that form of media was independent voices using the open web as a platform to express themselves. And that information, those voices were being found because of a huge driver of change in the media and technology and culture called search. So I wrote a book about it. It's here in Germany. It was translated. I know it did well here. I hope you read it. If you didn't, you must, really. You must read this book. So I wrote a book about Google, and while I was doing it, I thought to myself, my goodness, this company is changing media so dramatically that I think there might be a company to make in the wake of that change. So I started Federated Media. Very simple idea. All those small publishers with their high-quality voices, put them on one platform, do all the hard work they don't want to do with advertising operations and ad sales and all that messy stuff. The publishing side of the business, let them make the content. And a lot of the brands that you may know today, like Mashable or Boing Boing or TechCrunch or Business Insider or VentureBeat or GigaOM, they all started on the Federated Media platform, and I'm very, very proud that they worked with us early in the day. We also did the first brand integrations into some of these emerging new platforms in 2006 and 2007. Facebook, Twitter, Foursquare, WordPress. It's really cool times. It grew and it grew. We took a lot of money. If you're an entrepreneur, be careful of taking a lot of money. But we took a lot of money and everything was going swell, so I retired. I got in my rocking chair, my board chair, became chairman of the board to write a book. My next book, sort of like the first book about the power of technology as it affects culture, plus another book that I was a big fan of called The Information by James Glick about how data was changing the world, plus the observations of a strong cultural anthropologist. This is going to be my great work. And 3 years ago, I left FM to do it. But right before I left, we bought a company called Legit, a full ad tech stack supply-side platform focused on real-time bidded advertising programmatic business. It got very interesting very quickly. How many of you are familiar with this? This is called the display Lumascape. This is essentially marketing broken down into an absolute hot mess. Okay, on this side over there in the green are marketers looking to get the attention of human beings. And over on the other side are publishers who have the attention of human beings. Who are all those people in the middle? They're you guys. They're me. So Federated Media, that's a little circle I just showed you. I don't know if you can see that, but that's Federated Media. And that's Legit. A little bit of consolidation there. About the same time, actually last year and a half ago, I started another company about the way business was happening around the world. It's called OpenCo. I'm not going to talk about it now, we don't have much time, but I think we should bring it to Hamburg, so I'm going to work with these guys here at OMR to make it happen. It sounds really cool. We do it in Amsterdam, London. It's all about celebrating innovative new approaches to business, no matter what kind of business it is. But the most important thing I think we're all done in the last 5 years is we have built a technology infrastructure called programmatic ad tech. Now you saw Sociomantic here and Project A, and you see Turn outside. These are all key companies in building an infrastructure that allows us to connect to customers with the right information at the right time, in the right context, in real time. This is fundamentally the most important thing happening in our business, and most of us don't understand it because it's hard to understand because it speaks in code. And as marketers, we don't like code very much. I know I don't. I don't speak in code, I speak in words. It's so interesting, in fact, that I came back last year as CEO of Federated Media to figure out what to do with this asset we had acquired called Legit, this programmatic ad tech business. And just 3 weeks ago, I sold Federated Media and rolled out that programmatic ad tech as a new brand, Sovereign, which you'll hear more about, hopefully this year. And once I did that, what did I do? Back to the rocking chair. I am now writing the book, and that's what I want to spend the last few minutes talking to you about, is this idea, which I think is fundamentally important to all marketers. We are becoming data, so we need to be good at it, because if we're not good at it, it's not going to be pretty. That's the Matrix, it's another joke. The Matrix, come on. We are building on the past electronic age where we electrified everything. That happened right after World War I. The whole world became electrified. And building on that, we are now datafying the entire world, turning it into information. It's a huge secular trend. It ain't go anywhere. It's happening to us. We can't stop it. We must, however, take the right approach to it. Here is a little academics for you. On one side, participants in the IT industry, time, size of the industry. Okay, I'm gonna go through this quickly. Back in the 1960s and 70s, we got big mainframe computers. Not very many people used them. They had an awful language you had to learn. In order to interface with the machine, you had to learn something called Fortran or Cobalt. Anyone? I know how old you are. Yeah. My dad programmed in Fortran because he was a finance officer at a large company, and he had to learn it to do inventory, accounting, and payroll. This is how we talked with machines 40 years ago. And this is the interface we used. Well, I couldn't even find a picture of Fortran on Google, so I used the C prompt, which is kind of its, direct descendant. Moving along, the next big wave of computing. Everyone got a computer on their desk. How cool is that? Now lots more people are involved, and it's a much bigger industry, and we see Dell and Microsoft and Apple, right? But you can't have everybody programming in Fortran and Cobalt. We needed a new user interface to this data we were creating. We were crunching spreadsheets. We were pulling information from the back office, and we were pulling it over these WANs and LANs, and we were crunching spreadsheets and sharing them in email, and everything was wonderful, and we were knowledge workers, and Time Magazine made the computer, the personal computer, the man of the year, right? But we need a new interface. What did we have? Windows. Windows. I consider this interface the hunt and poke interface to machines. You go, right? And that's what we did. We hunted and poked our way through computing. That's kind of like the equivalent of me in Germany. Right? That's me needing to go to the bathroom, right? I don't speak the language, but I can kind of gesticulate a little bit. The next big wave, oh my God, all that information on our back office, all that information in the front office, we're gonna turn it inside out, and we're gonna put it on the web. And we're going to talk to all of our customers, and all of our customers are going to be able to talk to us, and we need a new interface for that, because you're not hunting and poking your way through hundreds of millions and then billions of web pages. We needed a new interface. We got one in about the year 2000. And that interface is search. Natural language interface. Instead of hunting and poking, you are speaking through your fingers into a query, and that changed everything, and it sped everything up towards where we're going next. Where are we going next? What is the next wave? And who are the companies who are going to own that wave? Well, Facebook wants it, Microsoft wants it, Apple wants it, Google wants it, Twitter wants it. Everybody wants to be the next interface to the next wave. What is the wave? Well, new graph. Look at the participants on the right. All of a sudden, there's thousands of billions of participants. How's that possible? There's only 7 billion people. That's not possible, right? The industry size gets to the size of the world GDP, everything. How is that possible? So don't forget where we were. Right there, we were there with Google and search. And we're looking for the next big wave, where everything comes alive, everything can be data, everything is connected to everything else. Everything of value has an internet address and speaks to everything else of value. Cisco recently came out with a report saying that there will be 50 billion things connected to each other within 5 to 10 years. 50 billion things. That's a lot of information. Too much information. But we need an interface for all of that. And we don't know what it is, and everyone's trying to get to it. I suggest you read a book called The Circle by Dave Eggers, because that's a very interesting near-term piece of fiction that talks about that very interface. I won't go through all this, we don't have much time. There's a lot of information out there right now. You're probably overwhelmed by it. I certainly am. 35 trillion gigabytes of information will be online within about 6 years. That's enough information to stack DVDs back and forth to the moon 25 times. I don't really know how to think about that, but it's a lot. And that's before all of you decide to take all of your information and put it online as well. And by your information, I mean the roughly 150 zettabytes in your body. And there are 7 billion of you. I can't do the math. 150 zettabytes times 7 billion is more information than there are atoms in the universe. A lot of information. So, given we're becoming data, and we want to get good at it, How do we think about this? This is what my book is about. I think about being a cultural anthropologist right now and looking back 30 years and saying, what were the important things we should have been paying attention to 30 years ago that just were coming out, that were only being used by hundreds of thousands of people? Well, the personal computer came out 30 years ago. The mobile phone came out 30 years ago. And online networks got to the first 200,000 or 300,000 users 30 years ago. And then we got this guy. Do you remember this guy? The guy talking on a brick? And socially it was weird and it was awkward and it seemed strange and no one got into it very much, but man, boom, did it take off and it changed everything. So I asked myself, what are the things we're now starting to use that 30 years from now we're gonna look back and say those were the artifacts from the future? There's a Jawbone up. Anyone have one of those or one of those sensors? Yeah, it's about 10% of you now. 1 year ago when I asked that question, it was 1%. There's Google Glass. If any of you have Google Glass, no one will talk to you. Driverless cars, thermostats that think. Apparently you have to join Google Plus now to use a Nest thermostat. That's a joke. Drones, Bitcoin, 3D printers, microfluidic chips that use fluid as their input to process information, crossing the biology and informatics barrier. Super interesting stuff. Probably will cure cancer. Good stuff. That's what I'm writing about. The most important artifact, though, the most important artifact of the electrical age, probably it was the light bulb, right? That was the sign of electrification. So what's ours? The banner? I actually think it is. Because the banner built this, and that is the infrastructure for everything talking to everything else. And you are building that infrastructure. Think about that. You're building the most important artifact in the history of mankind. I think that's just cool. I just think that's cool. By the way, this is an interactive visual. I tweeted out using the hashtag the link, because I couldn't show it for time. It takes about 2.5 minutes, and the internet connection is a little janky, and it's HTML5 and blah, blah, blah. But it's pretty cool, check it out. Programmatic is fundamental. It's an open ecosystem. Anyone can join it. You don't have to get a license. You don't have to get permission. You can start a company and join this ecosystem. You can use it if you're a marketer. It allows for exchange of values across unlimited data points in real time. And it'll be about more than just marketing. When you turn up your thermostat, that infrastructure will engage. When you walk into your doctor's, that will engage. When you go to any government office, that will engage. That's important. We need to think about what that means and what the rules are. The neat thing about this, as I said, is marketing is building this infrastructure. So you guys get to build the beta of our future. It's sort of cool. Now, well, how does this change your world? This is important. The era of RFP-driven media buying is over. If you are buying and selling media using Microsoft Office, you need to think about whether you're going to have a job in the next year or two. I'm serious. All the marketers now have to think about touching their customers' data, understanding their customers' information. It's really important. Your customers expect you to. It's all Google's fault. Why? Because Google made it such that when we go to something and ask a question, the whole world reorganizes itself in 0.7 seconds for you. That messed up everything. Now everyone expects that of everybody else. So we've got to get there. But don't fear, it's not like the people who program computers are, and are complete, left-brain folks are going to win. I believe, and I have friends who believe, that the most creative people are the people who will win in the future. Because creativity can't be programmed. And creativity is the lifeblood of marketing. Thank you. Creativity means you understand how to have a conversation with someone. And there is not a company or a marketer in the world who's going to survive if you don't learn how to do it at scale in real time, leveraging programmatic technology. But at the end of the day, you have to know and have to have something to say. And that's hard to learn. But I call this the conversation economy, and it's starting now. I'll take you through a very fast example of it. I don't like to shop. Anybody else don't like to shop? All the guys, right? I have a daughter, she's 15. Let's pretend it's 3 years from now, I'm going to her favorite store, Forever 21, right? Her favorite store. I have to get her something for her birthday. I don't want to shop, I don't want to go in the store, but I know if I go into the store and make the effort, she'll know I made that effort, as opposed to going online. So I go to the store, I walk in, my phone starts to buzz immediately. I know it would start to buzz. I pull it out. There's 4 offers from 4 stores in the other parts of the mall saying, don't go into Forever 21, we'll give you 50% discount if you come to our store. Wipe those away. Look at my phone, and I say, Chloe, present. And the phone gives me a map inside the store and guides me directly to where I'm going. Meanwhile, all the clerks in the store, their phone buzzes, and they say, ah, that's Mr. Battelle. Do not make eye contact. They know I don't want to talk to anyone. I just want to go get that sweater and I want to walk out the damn door, right? So I look at my phone, it says, your daughter Chloe was here last week. She looked at 3 things, she only bought 1. Maybe you should get her this sweater. I go over to where the sweater is, I hold the phone up because it's just like the Gap with all the piles of clothes. You don't know which one's the right size. But with my phone, it highlights the one that's the right size. Pull it out, I walk out the door. This time I raise my eyes, look at the clerk and say, thank you. And she says, thank you, Mr. Battelle, and I'm out the door. Total time, 47 seconds. How did that work? Well, a secular shift in data control from the brand, the company, the platform, the other, to the consumer. A secular shift to programmatic platforms that allow for all that data to exchange and that thing to happen so seamlessly. A commitment to shift marketing from a vertical focus to something that happens across the whole experience, and a shift to being an experience brand. It's not easy to do, but you're the people who are going to do it. And my parting advice, try things, fail, try them again and learn. Start reading deeply. There's a couple books for you, The Circle. Pay attention to programmatic, and feel free to email me. Thank you so much for your time, and I hope I did that.